Welcome to NarrativeNook where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Eunice feigned a faint right into his arms. Eunice? Bard knew she was tired and came up with this little trick. If she fainted, she could naturally sleep in his embrace. Bard didn't let a smirk show on his lips. Instead, he settled on a bench outside, draping his coat over her body and her delicate face, his eyes betraying a deep sadness and concern. Meanwhile, Calvin couldn't help but ask, "That little girl knows medicine? Can she even go in and operate on Darren?" "Yeah, she's just a kid, what's the deal with that?" Arlen was also hearing this for the first time. Bard, holding his wife on the bench, said coldly, "Dad's awakening is all thanks to Bella." Calvin and Arlen were taken aback that such a young girl could have such prowess, solving medical issues that even renowned doctors couldn't fix. Is she a med student? Or did she train under some remarkable mentor? How come Louisa never mentioned it? Arlen was worried. If she really knew medicine and was skilled, that could spell trouble. Thinking this, he glanced at Calvin. Calvin's eyes also flickered with anxiety. In the operating room, Arabella looked up at Darren and said, "Oh, there's one more thing I haven't told you. When I was checking your health before, I found that you are weak, not due to illness, but because someone had been drugging you for a long time. I didn't tell anyone at the time, because I wanted to catch the culprit quietly." Later, she accidentally found that there was something off about Mr. Elliot from Bard's house. "My medicine was always delivered by Mr. Elliot," Darren said. "I heard from Bard that you exposed Mr. Elliot's plot a few days ago and saved me." Arabella nodded. "I suspected it was Mr. Elliot who poisoned you, but he has no grudge against you, yet he listens to Mafia Rock, who is Calvin and Arlen's lapdog." Darren gave a bitter smile, finding it hard to believe his own brother would stab him in the back. "We're almost out of time." Arabella checked the time, then summoned a few doctors and nurses from a side door. There was a large rest area connecting several operating rooms, where the medical staff who were in on the act waited, giving Arabella and Darren enough time alone. Arabella called them over, suited up in sterile attire, quickly tidied up the scene, and then had the operating room doors opened. By this time, Eunice had been asleep for half an hour. Seeing the operating room doors open, Bard gently roused the person in his arms. "Eunice, Dad's out. The surgery's done." Eunice slowly opened her eyes, groggy. "Dad's out? Where is he? What did Bella say? Is everything okay?" Calvin and Arlen rushed forward, anxiously inquiring. "Girl, how's your grandpa? Is his life in danger? Why hasn't he woken up yet? Is it serious?" Calvin and Arlen also hurried over, feigning concern. "Grandpa suffered a shock. We've done all we could. Whether he can wake up now is up to fate." Calvin gripped the edge of the bed as if it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Darren, you've got to hang in there, man. This family can't lose you. Darren, it's all my fault. Just open your eyes, and whatever you want to do to me, I will take it like a man. Your words are prettier than a song." Eunice stepped forward, her gaze icy as it swept over them. "If you're really looking to make amends with your lives, why don't you just go bash your heads against the wall and be done with it? Why waste breath on empty talk?" Calvin and Arlen were speechless. "Arlen, I will remember what you said. If Dad wakes up, you better not chicken out when it's time to face the music." The color drained from Arlen and Calvin's faces at her words. "Aunt Eunice, you and Uncle Bard should go back and get some rest. Grandpa won't be waking up anytime soon, probably not till tomorrow morning at the earliest." Arabella's suggestion made Calvin and Arlen exchange a glance before quickly looking away. "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here at the hospital to keep your grandpa company tonight." As Eunice's words hung in the air, Bard chimed in, "I'm staying too. Bella, I'll have someone drive you home to rest." "I'm not tired." Arabella insisted, facing them. "If anything happens to Grandpa, I want to be here to help." "Then is there a spare room?" Bard asked the attending doctor. "There are a few empty rooms down the hallway. Mr. Bard, if you don't mind, the family can make do and rest there." "Thanks," Bard said, and then turned to the others. Calvin Arlen, if you have nothing further, please feel free to head home. We can't really play host right now. He put an arm around Eunice's shoulder, whispering, let's go. Eunice nodded and gestured to Arabella, come here to me. In the end, Darren was placed in room 919, Bard and Eunice took 918, and Arabella settled into 917. Calvin and Arlen, among others, still sat on the hallway benches, seemingly reluctant to leave. 10 minutes later, the lights on the entire floor went out. Quick, light footsteps hurried towards room 919, the door swung open, and Darren was stabbed over a dozen times. In other rooms, 918 and 917, sleep gas was released, and after a moment, the doors were opened for a swift and silent takedown. Calvin, waiting in the hallway, soon heard from his underling, boss, it's done. They're all gone. What did you just say? Perhaps unable to believe how smoothly things had gone, Calvin asked in a hushed tone, are you sure? Saw it with my own eyes, boss. It's the honest truth. Seeing his subordinate bowing with utmost respect, Calvin still couldn't believe it. He began to stride towards room 919. Pushing open the door to the room, the lights flickered on, and Calvin saw the white bed sheets soaked in blood. Arlen, following close behind, was equally incredulous, a glint of elation flickering in his eyes. Dead? Is Darren finally dead? Calvin and Arlen were both shaken and ecstatic. Is he really gone? This is great. Now they could rest easy. Calvin hadn't expected Darren to go out like this. His emotions were tumultuous, and it took a while before he could compose himself. Step by deliberate step, he approached the bloodied bed. On the hospital bed lay a man with a face identical to that of Darren, except his heart and stomach had been stabbed over a dozen times. The wounds oozed blood, and their gaping maws were a horrific sight to behold. Calvin felt a semblance of relief wash over him. Darren, you've only got yourself to blame. You know, if you had just slept through and not woken up, I would have been there for you for the rest of your days. But tonight, you just had to wade into the Arlen family mess. You can't blame us for playing rough now. Darren, you've had it all these years, wealth, family, the works. Now it's time for your brothers to have a turn. Arlen interjected, unable to contain himself. Don't worry, your wife is with your younger son, Samson. He'll take good care of her. You elder son Bard would pass away by now, you two can leave the world together. As for the Griffith group, we brothers will take the reins. You just rest easy, we'll see to it that you have a grand send-off. At this point, Calvin couldn't help but ask, with Darren gone, along with Bard and Eunice, how do we get their shares and assets transferred to us? Yeah, they didn't sign anything, what if? Before Arlen could finish, he was interrupted with a chuckle. You two numbskulls, scared witless, huh? Just use their hands to stamp the transfer papers later, right? That makes sense. It's a shame about that girl, though. Heard she was quite the medic. Calvin's tone carried a hint of regret. If she can't be of use to us, then she's no use at all, Arlen said firmly. Let's get those stamps done. Calvin wanted to feel that weight off his chest as soon as possible. Once Darren, Bard, and Eunice's stamps were on the transfer papers, everything would be settled. He reached for Darren's hand, about to make the stamp, when suddenly something felt off. Hold on. His voice caused all the brothers present to look up in confusion. Calvin, what's wrong? Something's off about Darren's hand. As Calvin examined it closely, it wasn't just the hand that was wrong. On closer inspection, the face and the limbs of the corpse seemed peculiar too. The features on the body before them looked strange. And the hands and feet seemed a tad chubbier and shorter than Darren's. What on earth was going on? My dear brothers, what a clever scheme you've concocted. Darren's voice startled the brothers, causing them to step back in fear, eyes darting between the bed and the door. A ghost, a ghost. But Darren on the hospital bed said nothing. Instead, a tall and authoritative person appeared in the doorway. Darren's sudden appearance left everyone in disbelief, their eyes darting between the door and the hospital bed. How could there be two Darrens? Darren wasn't dead. He strode into the room, followed by Bard, Eunice, and Arabella. The brothers' eyes widened in shock. Darren, what's going on? Why was there a Darren at the door and one on the bed? Why was everyone alive? Darren approached them, delivering a resounding slap to each of them, shaking with fury. Calvin and Arlen were terrified, heads bowed, unable to meet his gaze. What was going on? The man in the bed was one of the goons you sent to surround the manor. We picked out a few with similar builds, dressed them up, added prosthetics and wigs. Darren's explanation brought realization to his brothers. So, the man on the bed wasn't really Darren himself. It was one of their henchmen, disguised after they'd surrounded the manor. It all made sense now. They'd been drugged into a deep sleep, but then your men went and stabbed them a dozen times. No saving them now. The brothers finally understood they had fallen for Darren's trap. It had all been a setup by Darren himself. Was Eunice the one who spilled the beans about the birthday bash to Darren? It seemed like he had set a trap, just waiting for them to take the bait. If they could claim that the previous incident was all a misunderstanding, tonight's fiasco was irrefutable evidence of their treachery. No amount of excuses would do any good now. Darren had seen with his own eyes, heard with his own ears. They had laid bare every treacherous thought in their hearts. You bunch of backstabbers. Darren snatched the leather belt from one of his men and lashed them with fury. I treated you like brothers, and you plotted against me, wishing me dead. They not only wished him dead, but they didn't spare his son, his daughter-in-law, nor his dear granddaughter. How could they be so heartless? The belt was an heirloom, a family sanction passed down through generations. Even through the thick winter coats, each strike inflicted pain that made them grit their teeth and wince. Darren, we were wrong. The brothers whimpered as they recoiled. It's okay if you kill us, but don't get worked up. You've just recovered, it wouldn't be worth it. When you were stabbing me over and over earlier, I didn't see any of you concerned about my health. Now that you've been caught, you start with your crocodile tears. Darren swung the belt, striking them again and again. Calvin took a hit to the face, a red mark instantly surfacing. Arlen got it on the head. The pain was so intense it felt like his skull was splitting. Trying to dodge the relentless belt, Calvin and Arlen's heads collided, stars exploding in their vision, disoriented by the pain. They knew Darren was truly disappointed and angry this time. Darren, your lashes have awakened me. I'm worse than an animal. If you decide to beat me to death today, I wouldn't utter a word of complaint. Even in the afterlife, I'd kneel and apologize to our parents. Then get in line to apologize to them. Darren fumed, whipping them mercilessly without any sign of stopping. The brothers hadn't expected Darren to be so determined to flay them. Bard, Eunice, and Arabella blocked the door, and on the 9th floor, jumping out the window wasn't an option. Besides, even if they managed to escape, Darren had ways to drag them back. All they could do was cry and beg for mercy. But Darren had no trace of compassion, only ceasing when he couldn't lift the belt anymore, panting heavily. The brothers' clothes were torn, revealing wounds that trembled with pain in the cold winter night. Calvin was barely hanging on, crawling to Darren's feet, clutching at his pants leg and pleading. Darren, we're old now. Please spare us. I won't have many years left anyway. Darren, don't let us die easily. Wouldn't it be better to let us live out the rest of our lives in torment and regret? Arlen crawled over as well, weeping and begging, Darren, for the sake of my grandchildren, spare my life. Darren, my youngest daughter is about to get married. Please give me a chance to see her in a wedding dress. You know she's my darling girl. Calvin fell to his knees before Darren, weeping bitterly. I promise you, after the wedding, I'll take my family and leave, never to bother you again. We'll relinquish our shares, the dividends, everything goes back to you, Darren. Do with them as you wish. Exactly, I'll resign immediately. I won't be involved with the company anymore. Transfer all my shares to you, Darren, and I don't want the monthly dividends. The house we live in, the cars we drive, you can take them back anytime. Arlen knelt before Darren too, tears and sobs mixing as he admitted his guilt. I just beg you, Darren, spare my life. The brothers wailed in unison. Darren, we really see the error of our ways. Darren looked at them with disdain, their pitiful state laid bare before him. Just moments ago, they had claimed they'd rather die than utter a word of complaint, and now they clung to life as if it were gold. You value your lives, but to you, mine and those of my son and daughter-in-law, my granddaughter are less than the dirt beneath your feet. Having had enough, Darren unleashed his anger with a leather belt, lashing at them until exhaustion stayed his hand. From now on, we go our separate ways. Our bond ends here. You're no longer my brothers. You have 2 days to disappear. Don't let me catch sight of you in Dawnstar or Solterra again. The brothers were stunned, hardly believing what they were hearing. Was Darren really cutting ties, treating them as strangers? If there is a next time, I will come for your lives myself. Now get out. After a moment of bewildered silence, the brothers sobbed with gratitude, thanking Darren before scrambling out the door. Finally alone, Darren's tense nerves relaxed, and he nearly collapsed. Arabella rushed to his side to support him. Turning to see his perceptive and thoughtful granddaughter, Darren felt a pang of sorrow. All those years of brotherhood, of pouring out his heart, and yet this newly found girl showed him more warmth and care than they ever did. His pride as the family patriarch seemed to melt away, leaving him feeling old and weary. "Let's go home," he said weakly. "Of course," whispered Arabella, aiding him as they left the hospital room. They passed by 2 other rooms, where the aftermath of violence was still evident, bloodied figures on beds and chaos strewn about the floor. Back at the estate, Serena paced her room restlessly, glancing at the clock. It was 1:30 in the morning. Eunice always played favorites, taking Arabella out and not returning for hours. She felt disregarded, her 18 years of being the niece forgotten. That evening must have introduced Arabella as the true heiress, with everyone fawning over her. During the introduction, Eunice must have mentioned that Serena had no blood ties to the Collins family, that she was just an adopted daughter. The thought made Serena uncomfortable, feeling that her aunt had crossed a line, never considering her feelings in anything she did. Especially now, not coming home at this hour. Perhaps they stayed at the Arlen residence. And Uncle Bard, what was his rush? Taking Grandpa away without allowing her a moment to catch up. She had planned to bond with Grandpa while Arabella was away at the birthday party, strengthening their relationship. But then it hit her, had Uncle Bard rushed off to join the birthday gathering with Aunt Eunice and Arabella? Were they all staying at the Arlen residence, leaving her alone in this big house? That would be utterly intolerable. Half an hour later, Serena heard the sound of a car outside and dashed out to see. Sure enough, her aunt and the rest of the family had returned. Darren sat in his wheelchair, with Arabella pushing it forward, while Bard held Eunice's hand. Witnessing this scene, Serena suddenly felt like they were truly a family. Grandpa, Uncle Bard, Aunt Eunice, Bella, you're finally back. Serena beamed. I've been waiting for what felt like an eternity, and now you're here. Why are you still up? It's late. You should be resting, Bard chided gently upon seeing her in a thin nightgown. Come inside. It's cold out here. Serena had purposefully shed her thick, warm robe for the flimsy nightgown, all to gain a bit of sympathy from her family. Seeing her plan had worked, she chuckled, I'm fine. You all must be exhausted after such a long night. Bella, let me help you with something. She wanted to make a good impression in front of her grandfather. No need, Arabella dismissed her offer, wheeling past without playing into Serena's act. A flicker of disappointment crossed Serena's eyes. Let's head inside, Eunice said, patting her back. Seizing the moment, Serena clung to her hand and caged. Aunt Eunice, was Arlen's birthday bash fun? Tell me all about it. What happened? It was all right, Eunice chuckled. There were a bunch of fun things, like a clown act. That sounds amazing. Serena felt envious, but also miffed that her aunt hadn't taken her along. But the performances were lackluster, at least in your sister's and my opinion, Eunice continued with a smile. You were lucky to miss it. There was this thrilling event tonight that got everyone's adrenaline pumping. If you had been there and seen all that, you probably would have been in tears. Serena couldn't help feeling slighted internally. How did her aunt know she would cry? Missing out on such a fantastic party seemed so unfair. All right, time to wash up and hit the hay, Eunice said, obviously tired and ready to head upstairs with Bard. But Serena whined, Grandpa's just getting better, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him. Just let me peek in and I'll be off. You can see him tomorrow. It's not too late. Serena pouted pretentiously. What if he's whisked away in a rush tomorrow and miss him again? Hearing this, Eunice glanced at Bard with a smile. She's beating around the bush, blaming you for taking her grandpa away. Not at all. I just miss Grandpa, that's all. Then make it quick and get some rest. Grandpa's tired too. He's been through a lot tonight. Eunice didn't spell it out, but to Serena, it sounded like her grandpa and Arabella had shared significant moments she wasn't privy to, and she didn't want to disrupt their lingering warmth. I get it, Aunt Eunice. You and Uncle Bard should rest up too, Serena replied with a gracious smile, though only she knew how upset and jealous she felt inside. After a while, she approached her grandfather's room and knocked. To her surprise, Arabella answered. Serena's face showed her shock. What are you doing in Grandpa's room? I need to speak with him. The unspoken message was clear. Get out now. He's about to sleep. Whatever it is can wait until tomorrow. As Arabella started to close the door, Serena quickly reached out to stop it. I just want to see him and say a few words. Are you going to stop me? I told you, he needs his rest. No need to rush the clock. Serena pushed against the door, matching her strength against Arabella's, but it was clear she was no match. Arabella easily held her ground, her effortless stance a stark contrast to Serena's strained efforts to open the door. Do you really have to be like this? Serena glared at Arabella, frustration evident in her voice. I just want to talk to Grandpa. What are you so afraid of? Afraid? Arabella arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Shouldn't you be the one who's afraid? What do I have to be afraid of? Serena retorted, her voice tinged with defensiveness even as she tried to turn the tables. You're just scared that Grandpa and I will bond, and he'll end up liking me more than you, right? Arabella couldn't help but laugh. Do you think I'm afraid of that? Just then, a weary voice called from the room. Bella, what are you doing out there? Arabella raised her voice slightly. Grandpa, Serena wants to see you. She says she has something to tell you. Just send her back. We'll talk tomorrow. Darren's voice sounded tired. Come here to me, Bella. Arabella shot Serena a look and closed the door. Left standing outside the door, Serena was stunned. She hadn't expected that overnight, Grandpa would come to rely on Arabella even more. He preferred Arabella's company over hers. She was his granddaughter of 18 years. Was it simply because Arabella shared his blood that he could erase all the affection he had shown Serena over those years? Serena clenched her fists, convinced that Arabella must be playing foul. She knew a thing or two about medicine. Surely she must have used some sort of hypnotic trick, making everyone in the family biased, making them all like her. How despicable. A draft blew in through the slightly opened window, sending a shiver down Serena's spine. She suddenly remembered she had left her thick robe in her room, and angrily she stormed off to retrieve it. Arabella went to Darren's side and continued with the acupuncture. Just 2 more needles, and then you'll be able to get a good night's rest. I just couldn't catch my breath earlier, my head was pounding, and I was so irritable. A few pricks from you, and I feel much better. Lying in bed, Darren was thinking of the events of the evening. Don't think about tonight anymore, Grandpa. Right now, you just need to relax and get some sleep, Arabella said as she inserted the needles. In a couple of days, Grandma is going to come visit. She'll worry if she finds you looking weak and listless. Really? A spark of surprise and joy lit up Darren's eyes. She said that to you? She's coming to see me. Since waking up that evening and being whisked away to Arlen's birthday bash by Bard, he hadn't had a chance to speak with his wife. Don't believe me, Grandpa? You can call Grandma tomorrow and ask her yourself, Arabella smiled. She'll be thrilled to hear your voice. I'll call her first thing in the morning. It's been too long since I've seen her. To be honest, he missed her terribly. Since falling ill, he and his wife had been forced to live apart, seeking treatment in different places. Just remember, Grandpa, your recovery is still fragile. No extreme emotions when you talk to her tomorrow. Arabella cautioned. All right, Darren chuckled, already feeling better. After Arabella finished with the acupuncture, she tidied away the needles and placed a sachet on his bedside table. This will help soothe and induce sleep. You rest up, and I'll come to check on you tomorrow. Thank you, dear. You've been such a help. Darren's eyes were heavy with sleep, and it wasn't long before he drifted off into slumber. Arabella stepped out of the shower well past midnight, her skin still tingling from the hot water, and realized it was already 2 a.m. Checking her phone, she noticed a few missed calls and unread messages, all from Romeo. She quickly shot him a text asking if he was still up. No sooner had she hit send than Romeo's call came through. Have you been waiting by your phone this whole time? Arabella teased, a playful smirk dancing on her lips. Hearing her voice seemed to ease something deep inside Romeo. Must have been quite the night for you to miss my messages. Just hearing you now, I can tell things went smoothly. He was genuinely happy for her, knowing she had a lot on her plate that evening and could guess what sort of things might have happened. It did go well, but it was a lot for Grandpa, you know. He's not young anymore, and tonight took a toll on him. Arabella shared, her voice softening. Just then, she heard Romeo chuckle and couldn't help but ask, "What's so funny? Have you noticed you're talking to me more and sharing more? You used to barely reply to my messages, let alone open up about your experiences. Is that enough for you?" Arabella's smile warmed her voice. Aren't you setting the bar a bit low? Just hearing a few extra words from you and knowing you're thinking of me are all the satisfaction I need. Arabella laughed. So, can you sleep peacefully now? Are you free tomorrow? Romeo's voice was gentle. I'd like to take you to a few places. He'd been in Dawnstar for a few days now and hadn't yet taken her out to explore. Arabella thought for a moment. No pressing matters the next day, so she agreed. Sleep in then. Text me when you're up, and I'll come get you. Alright, it's late, you should get some sleep. What about you? Drying my hair. She had answered his call with her hair still damp, and it hadn't dried yet. Romeo felt a twinge of regret. If he had known, he wouldn't have let her answer the phone with wet hair in the cold. If he were there, he'd have dried it for her. The thought brought back memories from a night long past. I'll bring you a hairdryer cap tomorrow, Romeo said softly. Use the warm setting for now, and go to sleep quickly. Don't catch a cold. Okay. After exchanging goodnights, Arabella hung up. The next morning, before Dawn even hinted at breaking the night, Serena was already up. She wanted to bond with each family member before Arabella woke up. But she had risen too early, and when breakfast time came, she found herself alone at the table. The sky was a blanket of dull gray, the night's curtain not yet fully lifted, when she couldn't help but ask the housekeeper, "What time does Uncle Bard usually wake up?" "Well, usually about half an hour from now, but ever since his wife came back, Mr. Bard has been rising late with her. To be honest, we servants can't say for certain." Serena couldn't help but inquire further, "And what about Grandpa?" "Mr. Darren woke up just last night. He's usually in a comatose state, so his routine is unpredictable." Serena could only put down her fork. "Then I'll go for a morning run, and we can all have breakfast together when they wake up." At -3 degrees, even clad in thick clothing, the bone-chilling wind made Serena shiver uncontrollably. But she jogged on determinedly, thinking to herself, what if Uncle or Grandpa woke to find her running before dawn, impressed by her self-discipline and drive? So, braving the cold, she ran around the garden for 40 minutes, and with still no one awake, she couldn't bear it any longer and hurried back inside. Half an hour later, Bard was the first to come downstairs. Spotting Serena at the breakfast table, cradling a bowl in her hands, he couldn't resist asking, "Serena, why so early? And your face is so red. Is it from the cold?" "I ran outside for an hour. It started snowing, so I stopped. Good morning, Uncle Bard." Serena spoke, her breath visible in the air. Bard hadn't expected her to change, to take up early morning runs. That's a good habit, but on bad weather days, you might consider an indoor workout. Your aunt does just that with her morning yoga. Serena thought, had she known, she would have grabbed a yoga mat and practiced in a conspicuous spot indoors, enjoying the warmth and avoiding the strenuous run while still catching people's attention. Bard joined her at the table, sharing breakfast. By the way, Serena, you mentioned on the phone that you have a boyfriend. How long has that been going on? It started after my sister came home. Serena deliberately cast her eyes down, then mustered a smile. It's been about half a year. He pursued me for 6 years, from junior high through to senior year. After the college entrance exams last summer, I gave it a shot. What does he do? Bard asked with interest. A student like you. He's a freshman too, but he's exceptional. The college granted him privileges due to his grades. He only needs to take exams at the end of each semester and will graduate in 4 years. Unable to resist boasting, Serena added, his family owns a department store chain with over 600 locations worldwide. Using his family's resources, he started a logistics company and recently secured funding. He owns 50 cargo planes and exclusive rights to certain flight paths. Bard was well aware of what owning 50 cargo planes meant at such a young age, especially with exclusive domestic flight path rights, no small feat. He's expanded the air freight business nationwide, the fastest in the country, outpacing other logistics companies, including those owned by the Collins and Macmillan families. Serena made a point of comparing him to the Collins and Macmillan families. Bard nodded, impressive. Young, ambitious, with a unique vision. Thank you, Uncle Bard. Serena thought to herself how Uncle could so easily overlook the truth. In comparison, Martin was clearly no match for Romeo. Since my sister is the true Collins family heiress and I'm just an adopted daughter, it's only natural that the arranged marriage between the Collins and Macmillan families should be for her. Serena put on an understanding face, not mentioning whether Romeo was interested in her or how she reluctantly settled for Martin. If she could have her way, she would be Romeo's wife. My granddaughter has a boyfriend now. Darren's cheerful voice came from the doorway. I sleep for a little while, and I miss my granddaughter getting a boyfriend. Eunice, supporting Darren, added with a smile, it's not too late for you to find out now, Dad. Bring him over to meet us when you get a chance, Darren suggested with a twinkle in his eye. I overheard at the doorway that the young man is in logistics. Not bad at all, quite the business acumen for a freshman. He has a promising future. Grandpa, you finally came. Serena quickly left her seat, went up to Darren, and took his hand affectionately. I wanted to talk to you last night, but Bella said you were off to bed. I was pooped last night, Darren replied with a warm smile. But Serena couldn't help thinking, if he was so tired, why did he keep Arabella in his room for a private chat? Grandpa, you have no idea how much I missed you while you were out of it, Serena said as she pulled out a chair for him and helped him sit down. She then sat beside him, still holding his hand, and cooed, it's been such a relief to finish the semester so I could come to see you. And Aunt Eunice made it back safe and sound too. It's just so great to see all of you. At that moment, a servant brought in breakfast, and Serena hurried to help serve it in front of Darren. Grandpa, this is your favorite pumpkin and millet porridge. The bowl was a bit hot, and after setting it down, Serena quickly touched her earlobe. Did you burn your hand? Darren asked with concern. No, it's fine, Serena laughed, serving the other side dishes in front of him and arranging the silverware before sweetly adding, eat up while it's hot, Grandpa. Darren chuckled. Such a thoughtful child. Another servant brought Eunice her breakfast. As Serena helped serve it, the bowl was indeed too hot, and just half a meter from the table, she accidentally let go. In a flash, Bard swept Eunice into his arms and turned to shield her. The soup splashed onto Bard's clothes and spilled all over the table, creating a messy scene. Serena, burned by the heat, recoiled and was visibly shaken. I'm so sorry, Uncle Bard, Aunt Eunice, are you both okay? She just wanted to make a good impression but ended up messing things up again. Seeing that his wife was unharmed, Bard finally said, it's all right. Eunice, noticing his stained clothes, pulled out a tissue to wipe him down, thankful that the thick clothes and cold weather prevented any burns. I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. I tried to be clever and just messed up, Serena said, full of remorse. It's okay, I know it wasn't on purpose. Let's have breakfast, Bard instructed the servants to prepare another serving. 2 more servants quickly started cleaning up the chaotic table. Then Arabella arrived. Everyone greeted her with smiles as she entered the room. Serena felt a twinge of jealousy. Everyone seemed more enthusiastic about Arabella than her. Despite her discomfort, Serena still managed to smile and called out to her sister, making sure to keep up appearances. The servant respectfully approached, "Miss Bella, for breakfast we have soup, pumpkin porridge, bread and pastries, milk, cheese omelets, sandwiches, and rolled omelets. Plus, we have some side dishes. What would you like?" "Give Bella a little of everything," Darren said enthusiastically. "It's not every day we have her over, so bring out all the good stuff for Bella. And Bella, if there's anything you don't like, just tell me, and I won't let them make it anymore." "I'm not picky," Arabella said with a smile. "But serving too much might mean I can't finish it all. You downed more fried chicken than me last night, so I'm pretty sure you can handle it. It's no problem for you." Darren
For
teased.
listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.